The celestial conclave station floated like a gleaming jewel in orbit around the dying star Veridax. Its massive hexagonal rings shimmered against the backdrop of deep space, a testament to centuries of galactic unity and power. Representatives from over 100 civilizations had gathered there, a sprawling congress of diplomacy and veiled agendas. The air inside was thick with anticipation, and something more subtle, unease. Whispers spread quickly through the crowded corridors. The Terran exploratory fleet had arrived in the system, and with it the latest chapter in a saga the galaxy's oldest powers hoped to keep buried. In the grand hall, windows stretched from floor to ceiling, revealing the stars beyond. Alien, delegates dressed in elaborate robes and metallic suits mingled, exchanging coded glances and cautious smiles. The Garkal, a reptilian race known for their strict hierarchy, hissed softly to their kin. The Velari, shimmering in their bioluminescent patterns, flickered nervously. Even the stoic Korathian elders, renowned for centuries of impartial judgment, seemed disturbed. Then, the massive docking bay doors slid open with a low, resonant hum. The Terran fleet slipped in, sleek, utilitarian, and unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The ships bore no gilded flags or emblems. They carried the simple mark of Earth, a deep blue circle surrounding a silver spiral galaxy. No grand declarations, no fanfare, just presence. Among the gathered races, many scoffed quietly. Primitive apes with blasters, muttered a Zarnathi, admiral to his second-in-command, their scaled faces twisted in disdain. But the humans' crew were different from what the galaxy expected. They did not bow, nor did they greet with flowery words. Instead, they moved with a rough, almost defiant energy, tired eyes beneath worn uniforms, scars hinting at past battles, voices low but unwavering. At the center of the assembly hall stood Captain Evelyn Cortez, leader of the flagship Intrepid. Her dark eyes scanned the crowd, burning with quiet fire. She stepped forward, her voice calm but sharp, resonating through the chamber's silence. "We come not to beg for recognition. We come with a message. The Terran people have changed." Ripple of shocked murmurs swept through the crowd. Many had heard tales of humanity's turbulent past, nuclear wars, near extinction, relentless adaptation. But none had imagined Earth's survivors could emerge so resolute and unified. The Galactic Council's chair, an elder named Maloric from the Vespian Collective, cleared his throat. "Captain Cortez, the Accord welcomes your people, but your arrival here must be peaceful." Evelyn smiled thinly. "Peace is not given, Chair Maloric, it is earned, and there are those who would test our limits." Her words hung in the air like a challenge. In a private chamber later that day, the Zarnathi Dominion's emissaries gathered in heated debate. Their supreme leader, High Commander Zath Kor, a towering figure clad in blackened battle armor, slammed his fist on the polished obsidian table. "Humans are weak," he growled. "They have no place among the stars. We will remind them why." Across the galaxy, other races exchanged wary glances. The warning was clear. Humanity's resurgence was not a matter of diplomacy but inevitability. Back on Intrepid, Evelyn stood on the bridge overlooking the vastness of space. Behind her, a young communications officer tapped a final code into the console. "Message sent, Captain," he said quietly. Evelyn nodded. The transmission was simple but unmistakable, a holographic broadcast sent to all known Zarnathi strongholds. "The universe warned you. You chose to ignore it. We are not the same humans you remember, we are your reckoning." Outside, stars shimmered coldly. The galaxy's silence stretched thin. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. Far from the polished halls of the celestial conclave, in the shadowed fringes of Zarnathi space, the Eudoran outpost thrummed with quiet activity. This small scientific colony was humanity's foothold deep in the frontier, far from Earth, isolated but vital. Researchers studied exotic minerals, engineers tested new energy sources. Families lived here, hopeful pioneers in a cold and uncertain galaxy. In the central command dome, Commander Jalen Hayes reviewed the latest reports. The colony's defenses were modest, No military fleets, just a handful of patrol drones and a light shield generator. No one expects trouble this far out, he muttered, tapping his datapad. But then the alarms screamed, red lights bathed the control room. The colony's sensors had detected multiple unknown ships emerging from a nearby nebula. Fast, hostile, and unmistakably Zarnathi. Battle stations, Hayes barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. The scientists scrambled to safety as soldiers moved to their posts. Despite being outgunned, the outpost prepared to fight. A holographic display revealed the enemy flagship, a towering dreadnought bristling with turrets and missile bays, the black scales of the Dominion gleaming like a predator's hide. The Zarnathi, Admiral's voice boomed across the colony's comms channels. Surrender your weapons and your people. Humanity's defiance ends here. Hayes stood firm. We will not bow to tyrants. But the odds were brutal. Zarnathi fighters swarmed like locusts, disabling outpost defenses with terrifying precision. Explosions ripped through the habitats. Panic spread as the battleground turned to fire and ash. Yet amid the chaos, a different kind of battle unfolded. Deep inside the colony's underground tunnels, a covert human team moved with deadly purpose. These were not soldiers, but operatives trained in stealth, sabotage, and survival. Terran shadows within enemy space. Led by Lieutenant Mira Chen, they navigated through narrow corridors and forgotten maintenance shafts, making their way toward. The Zarnathi flagship docked at the station. Remember the target, Mira whispered. We cripple their command, we hit them where it hurts. Their gear was state-of-the-art, adaptive cloaking fields, neural disruptors, and plasma cutters. The Zarnathi guards were formidable, but unprepared for invisible hunters moving beneath their feet. Inside the dreadnought's engine room, Mira's team planted a sophisticated bomb, a cascade of nano-explosives designed to disrupt the ship's fusion core. Timers set. Get out now, she ordered. Outside, the bombardment intensified. The colony's last shield flickered and died. Then, without warning, a massive explosion tore through the Zarnathi flagship. The shockwave blew open bulkheads, sending debris and startled soldiers flying. The ship shuddered violently, systems flashing red. The command bridge lost power. Across the battlefield, Zarnathi ships faltered, their formation broken. For a fleeting moment, hope blazed. Commander Hayes raised his voice over the comms, rallying survivors. Hold your ground. Help is coming, but the cost was heavy. The colony was shattered, many lives lost in a brutal hour of fire and blood. In the aftermath, as smoke curled into the black sky, a single transmission echoed across the stars. A terse, resolute message from Earth Command. This is only the beginning. The Terran people do not forget. The universe warned you. Now you know why. In the ruined streets of Uteran, survivors looked up at the stars, uncertain if salvation or vengeance was coming next. Far beyond, silent and watching, the Terran fleet prepared to make its next move. The game had changed. Months passed in an unsettling quiet. The galaxy buzzed with whispers and speculation, but Earth and its scattered colonies retreated behind a shroud of silence. No ships ventured into common lanes. No diplomatic envoys were sent. Communication. Blackouts blanketed key Terran worlds as if they were ghosts. On Earth itself, the bustling megacities were cloaked in a tense calm. The people moved with purpose, their faces hardened by recent losses but brightened by fierce determination. Captain Evelyn Cortez stood once more on the bridge of Intrepid, watching the world below. Blue oceans cracked by glowing city grids. Artificial satellites circling silently above. Are we ready? She asked quietly. Behind her, Commander Jalen Hayes, now promoted and stationed on Earth, tapped at a holographic interface filled with streaming data. More than ready, our cyber forces have crippled the Zarnathi economy. Their financial networks are in chaos. Corruption exposed, contracts canceled, mercenary fleets unpaid. Evelyn nodded. And the cloak ships? Hayes gestured to a tactical display. Tiny blips flickered in the deep outer system. Stealth vessels beyond detection, patrols watching every vulnerable border. They're ghosts. The Zarnathi don't know where or when we'll strike next. The Terran command center buzzed with quiet urgency. Scientists worked on new weapon prototypes, intelligence analysts pored over stolen data caches, and deep in secure underground bunkers, operatives trained relentlessly, human and alien volunteers alike, preparing for a war that no one dared openly announce. Meanwhile, in the crumbling halls of the Zarnathi Dominion, tension twisted like a dagger. High Commander Zathkor paced angrily before a holomap of the Terran systems. His once vaunted fleets were crippled by sabotage and cyber assaults. His people were growing restless, whispers of rebellion creeping into his court. We underestimated them, he admitted to his closest advisors. The Terrans are not what we thought. They are no longer weak. A young general leaned forward. High Commander, if we strike first, catch them off guard. Zathkor slammed his fist on the console. No. They are ghosts now. They strike when we least expect. We must tighten defenses and root out the spies. But paranoia had already taken root. No one in the Dominion was trusted anymore. Accusations flew. Executions followed. The very foundation of their power began to crumble from within. Back on Earth, Evelyn walked through the war room alongside her closest officers. Screens displayed tactical simulations, strike plans, and enemy vulnerabilities. We're not just fighting ships, she said, voice low but fierce. We're fighting a system of fear, control, and arrogance. The Zarnathi think they're untouchable. We'll show them otherwise. A young lieutenant stepped forward, nervous but determined. Captain, the colonies need to know. How do we assure them the Terran response will protect them, not bring more war? Evelyn met her out by proving it, by hitting the Dominion where it hurts the most and ending their reach. The room fell silent as the weight of the coming storm settled on every face. Outside, the stars gleamed coldly, silent witnesses to a galaxy on the edge. In the deep shadows of the Terran fleets, hidden vessels prepared to slip through enemy lines. Scientists fine-tuned weapons that could disable entire star systems. Cyber warriors sharpened their skills for the ultimate digital strike. The universe waited. The galaxy held its breath. Humanity was no longer a fledgling species to be dismissed or conquered. They were the reckoning. And soon, the first blow would fall. The Zarnathi Dominion's heartland was a sprawling network of planets, space stations, and orbital shipyards, each a vital cog in the vast machinery of their empire. Yet over the past weeks, the Dominion's once unshakable control began to falter, unraveling in ways no one could fully explain. Power grids flickered and died, without warning. Supply convoys vanished en route, their cargo lost to ghostly sabotage. Communications were riddled with static and cryptic interference, as if the Dominion's own systems had turned against them. In the Dominion capital of Carex Prime, High, Commander Zathkor paced in his command hall, surrounded by holographic feeds showing reports of system failures and security breaches. His scaly visage darkened with frustration and suspicion. Who strikes from the shadows, he demanded. Root out these ghosts. I want every spy found and crushed. But his generals had no answers. The sabotage was too precise, too clean. No signatures, no claims of responsibility. The Dominion's best intelligence teams were left grasping at phantoms. Meanwhile, across the void, humanity's true warfare unfolded far from the blazing front lines. Lieutenant Mira Chen crouched in a cramped maintenance shaft aboard a drifting satellite array, her neural interface pulsing softly as she scanned the electronic locks on a nearby data terminal. Target acquired, she whispered into her comlink. Her team, a dozen operatives spread across the system, moved in silence and perfect synchronization. Each carried a unique piece of the puzzle. A virus here, a sabotage charge there, a hijacked drone ready to ignite chaos. The Zarnathi systems were vast and complex, but humanity had spent years preparing for this moment. Their cyber warriors were artists of disruption, blending ancient Earth guerrilla tactics with the latest quantum computing hacks. We're inside their core network, reported Mira, deploying nanovirus payload. Suddenly, alarms blared. Across the Dominion's network command center. Screens flickered as critical systems crashed one after another. power stations plunged into darkness. Defense drones shut down mid-flight. Chaos rippled outward like a storm. In the skies above Carex Prime, Zarnathi patrol ships scrambled to locate the source of the disruptions. Fleets were grounded, starbases isolated. For every strike humanity made, they melted back into shadows, impossible to track or engage. Amid the turmoil, an intercepted Zarnathi transmission crackled through Terran comm channels. Something is wrong. Our systems are failing a retreat. But it was too late. In the silence that followed, a message was sent. Not in words, but in actions. We have come for you. We are already here. Back aboard the Intrepid, Captain Evelyn Cortez stood before a tactical display with her officers watching live data feed in real time. Zarnathi communications are fractured, she said. Our shadows are their nightmare. They don't know what to fight or where to look. Her voice was calm but carried the steel of resolve. We do not need to destroy their entire fleet yet. We only need to dismantle their command structure. Without it, their empire will collapse from within. One of her officers, Ensign Rylas, glanced up nervously. And the civilians caught in the crossfire? Evelyn's eyes softened for a moment. We strike only at the guilty. The Zarnathi leadership chose this war. The rest will be free once we finish. Outside, the stars twinkled with indifferent light. The galaxy watched a silent war rage in circuits and shadows, far from the blinding fury of open battle. A war of ghosts, and the ghosts belonged to humanity. The void above Carex Prime ignited with sudden fury. The Shadow War was over. Humanity's fleet, long concealed in deep space, now surged forward like a tidal wave. Thousands of ships, sleek and deadly, emerged from slip-space corridors, encircling the Zarnathi capital planet with ruthless precision. Captain Evelyn Cortez stood on the bridge of Intrepid, her jaw set and eyes steely. Around her, the command crew moved with practiced efficiency, each pulse of the battle choreographed like a symphony of destruction. Target priority, Zarnathi fleet flagship, Dominus Rex. Evelyn ordered. We break their command. End this. War now. Explosions blossomed in the starfield as the two fleets collided. The Zarnathi warships, battered and weary from weeks of sabotage, fought desperately. Turrets blazed, missiles streaked through space, and fighter squadrons swarmed, like angry hornets, but the Terran fleet moved with terrifying coordination. Their ships operated in swarms, shifting formations like living organisms, adapting instantly to threats. Automated drones swarmed enemy vessels, disabling shields and jamming systems. Plasma lances carved through hulls. The humans fought without the bravado or glory of ancient wars, precise, efficient, lethal. In the midst of the chaos, Lieutenant Mira Chen piloted a stealth fighter, weaving through debris and laser fire. Her mission was personal. The Dominus Rex had been responsible for countless atrocities, including the destruction of Uterine Outpost. She tightened her grip on the controls, her eyes locked on the massive warship ahead. Evelyn, this is Chen, she radioed. I'm moving in for boarding. Be careful, Evelyn replied. We need that ship intact if possible. Mira's fighter zipped through the fractured Zarnathi defense, dodging flak and missile bursts. A pulse cannon tore past her wing, scorching the hull, but she pressed forward. With practiced precision, she deployed grappling hooks and attached magnetic clamps to the Dominus Rex. The boarding crew swarmed through breach points, fighting through narrow corridors filled with smoke and blaster fire. In the command bridge of the Dominus Rex, High Commander Zath Kor watched the battle unfold on cracked hollow screens. His face was a mask of rage and disbelief. How can this be? He snarled. Our fleet is shattered. Our defenses breached. Is this the humans' final strike? From the shadows, Mira's team stormed the bridge. Zath Kor drew his blade, a serrated energy sword crackling with deadly power. The fight was brutal and close quarters. Steel, clashing with ancient rage, tactical training against raw fury. But the humans were relentless. One by one, the Zarnathi command staff fell. Back outside, the battle raged on. The Terran fleet pushed forward relentlessly, breaking the remaining resistance like a hammer crushing stone. As the Dominus Rex began to lose power, Evelyn gave the order. Prepare to glass Car-X Prime. The words echoed through the fleet like a death sentence. From orbit, massive bombardment platforms unleashed torrents of plasma and kinetic weapons on the planet's surface. Cities burned, military complexes vaporized, and the ruling castes, palaces were reduced to molten ruins. But the humans made no effort to occupy or colonize. The destruction was a message. Brutal, undeniable, final. Hours later, as the fires raged below, Evelyn stood at the observation window, gazing at the smoking planet. This is not conquest, she whispered. It's correction. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. The Zarnathi Dominion was broken. Humanity had shown the universe exactly what it meant to provoke them. The fires of Car-X Prime still burned, casting a fiery glow against the void. From orbit, the remnants of the once mighty Zarnathi Dominion smoldered like a dying star, its infrastructure reduced to ruins, its fleets scattered or destroyed. Captain Evelyn Cortez stood silently on the observation deck of the Intrepid, her reflection a ghost against the blazing planet below. Victory tasted bitter in her mouth. The war had been won, but at what cost? Beside her, Commander Jalen Hayes spoke softly, breaking the heavy silence. The Dominion's grip is broken. Their fleets are scattered, their leadership decimated. The galaxy will never see their like again. Evelyn nodded. But power vacuums breed chaos. We have destroyed a monster. But what comes next? The systems, once controlled by the Dominion, will they fall into our hands or into anarchy? In the aftermath, the Terran Command faced a monumental task, stabilizing the shattered regions, preventing opportunistic warlords from rising, and offering a hand to those oppressed under Zarnathi rule. On Car-X Prime's surface, amidst the ruins, a tentative resistance was already forming, not of loyalists but of common people who had suffered under tyranny. Some reached out to the Terrans seeking aid and protection. Lieutenant Mira Chen, her armor stained and battered, led a team into the devastated capital city. They distributed medical supplies, restored basic communications, and guarded convoys from roaming scavengers and hostile remnants. People need hope, Mira said quietly as she helped a wounded child. Not just freedom from tyranny, but a reason to rebuild. Across the systems, the galaxy watched with wary eyes. Some races hailed humanity as liberators. Others whispered fears of an Earth empire rising to fill the Dominion's void. At a secret meeting on the neutral station Vela Prime, representatives from former Dominion worlds debated their uncertain future. We owe the Terrans our survival, said a delegate from the mining world of Zathros. But we must ensure we do not become their vassals. An elder from the Valari spoke cautiously. Their power is undeniable, but their intentions remain unclear. Trust must be earned, not given. Back aboard Intrepid, Evelyn convened her senior staff. We did not start this war, she said, voice resolute, but we must finish it with honor. We will not conquer, but we will protect. We will rebuild, not rule. Commander Hayes frowned. That means commitment, resources, time, alliances. We're stretched thin. Evelyn met his gaze. We have no choice. If we fail to guide this new order, chaos will consume us all. In the quiet moments, Evelyn allowed herself a rare glimpse of vulnerability. She thought of Earth, her home, battered but resilient, and the people depending on her to lead humanity through the storm. Across the galaxy, the universe itself seemed to shift. Old alliances crumbled, new powers emerged, and the memory of the Terran resurgence would echo for generations. But the greatest challenge still lay ahead, not in battle, but in peace. Because the universe had warned them, never provoke humanity, and humanity had answered. Now it was time to prove they could be more than a reckoning. The peace that followed Car-X Prime's devastation was fragile, like glass stretched thin across the cosmos. The Terran victory had reshaped the balance of power, but it also awakened new fears and ambitions. The galaxy was watching. Allies and enemies alike tested the new order. In the shadowed council chamber of Vela Prime, a meeting convened that could determine the fate of thousands of systems. Captain Evelyn Cortez sat at the head of the table, flanked by her closest advisors. Around her, representatives from former Dominion worlds, Galactic Council members, and uneasy allies took their seats. The room buzzed with tension and quiet calculation. The Valari ambassador, her luminous skin shifting with anxiety, broke the silence. Captain Cortez, your people brought an end to tyranny. For that you have our respect. But liberation without governance can lead to chaos. How does Earth plan to prevent a power vacuum from destroying these systems? Evelyn's gaze was steady. We do not seek to govern nor to conquer. Our mission is protection and support, helping these worlds rebuild their own futures. But make no mistake, we will defend those who suffer oppression. A murmur ran through the assembly. From the back, a tall figure in dark armor rose. General Vekthal of the Zarnathi Resistance. His voice was cold, edged with bitterness. Your protection feels like occupation. You may have shattered our command, but you have not won our loyalty. The Dominion was cruel, yes, but it was ours. We will not bow to the humans. The room erupted in whispers and heated exchanges. Evelyn held up a hand. We do not want enemies. But make no mistake, we will not tolerate renewed aggression. Outside the chamber, tensions simmered. Several former Dominion worlds began covert talks with shadowy mercenary groups and rival factions. The fragile peace was a tinderbox. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Cortez and her team worked tirelessly to strengthen alliances. Terran diplomats traveled star systems, negotiating trade, technology exchange, and security pacts. Their goal: create a coalition strong enough to deter threats and foster cooperation. Yet beneath the diplomatic veneer, old wounds festered. Commander Jalen Hayes reviewed intelligence reports in a secure command center. There are growing signs of insurgent activity, smuggling routes reopening, unexplained attacks on supply convoys. Evelyn frowned. They want to provoke us into another war. We must stay vigilant. In the quiet hours, Mira Chen received troubling news from her contacts on the ground in former Dominion territories. Resistance cells are recruiting. They exploit fear and hatred. If we fail to engage with the people, we risk losing hearts and minds. Evelyn's jaw tightened. Then we do not fail. We build bridges, we listen, and when necessary, we stand firm. Yet even as she spoke, shadowy forces maneuvered in the darkness. Unknown to the Council, a mysterious faction called the Obsidian Hand began infiltrating key systems. Their origins were unclear, their motives hidden, but their message was chilling. The era of humanity's reckoning had only just begun. Back aboard the Intrepid, Evelyn stared into the starfield, aware that the war was far from over. The universe had been warned once, but warnings did not guarantee peace. The next chapter would be written in fire and blood, by allies and enemies alike. The galaxy had shifted beneath humanity's feet. What began as a warning had blossomed into a reckoning. Captain Evelyn Cortez stood once more on the bridge of Intrepid, the ship's engines humming softly beneath her boots. Beyond the viewports, the blackness of space stretched infinitely, pierced by distant stars and the ghostly remnants of a shattered fleet. Reports streamed in from every frontier: incidents, skirmishes, sabotage. The Obsidian Hand, that shadowy faction no one truly understood, had struck again. Communications were severed. Key worlds fell into chaos. Old enemies and new threats converged. But humanity would not falter. Captain, Commander Jalen Hayes, approached, holding a datapad glowing with urgent updates. The Obsidian Hand has seized the asteroid base in the Rylax system. They're using it to launch attacks on supply lines and civilian transports. Evelyn's eyes hardened. Then, we take it back. She turned to her officers. Prepare a strike team. We're ending this before it spreads. The mission was perilous. Deep behind contested space, against an enemy who thrived in shadows and deception. But for humanity, hesitation was not an option. Lieutenant Mira Chen led the strike force, her team moving like ghosts as they infiltrated the Obsidian Hand stronghold. Every step was a dance with death. Silent corridors, hidden traps, and enemy operatives lurking in the dark. Inside the command chamber, Mira confronted the Obsidian leader, a masked figure whose voice was cold and calculating. "You humans think this is your galaxy," the leader hissed. "But you are pawns in a greater game. The Obsidian Hand will reclaim balance." Mira's response was steel. "Balance? You mean chaos. We fight for order, for justice." The battle was swift and brutal. Energy weapons blazed, and every corner echoed with the clash of wills. Mira's team dismantled the Obsidian Command, securing the base and cutting off their operations. Back aboard Intrepid, Evelyn received word of the victory, but knew the war was not over. "We've won a battle," she told her crew, "but peace is forged in vigilance." She looked out at the stars, the endless frontier that had once been a warning to the universe. Now it was humanity's domain to protect. The universe had learned its lesson: never provoke humanity. Because when provoked, humanity did not just fight. They endured, they adapted, and they rose. The Terran people stood resolute, guardians of the fragile peace amid a galaxy still dark and uncertain. And their story was only beginning.